As the movie begins in a dystopian future, we see a young Furiosa picking peaches with her friend Valkyrie in the Green Place. Ever since the apocalypse, Australia has turned into a wasteland, and the Green Place is one of the few remaining areas with fresh water and vegetation. The girls hear a noise nearby, and despite Valkyrie's warnings, Furiosa ventures out to investigate it. When she sees a group of raiders, the motorcycle marauders, she tries to sabotage their bikes. Just as she is about to cut the gas pipe of the second bike, one of the raiders, Toe Jam, finds her and takes her captive as a prize for their leader, Dementus. While Furiosa blows the whistle warning the villagers, Valkyrie runs toward the village shouting about the biker horde kidnapping Furiosa. Shortly after, Furiosa's mom, Mary Jabassa, and Vuvolini General start chasing the bikers on horses. Once Mary gets her hand on a bike after subduing one of the bikers, Vuvolini gives her a rifle and ammunition for the journey ahead. Mary kills another biker and takes his bike, while the other bikers flee. As night falls, one of the two bikers runs out of gas, so they stop and bicker about the next move. This gives Furiosa enough time to cut through her ropes and run away. However, she doesn't get too far, and the biker catches her again. In the morning after, Mary kills another biker, while Toe Jam and Furiosa with Toe Jam reach the biker horde lair in the desert. When approached by Rizdale, one of Dementus's lieutenants, Toe Jam brags about having found a place with abundance and asks to speak directly to the warlord Dementus. Just as they are about to enter the tent, Furiosa throws Toe Jam's spine trap into the bicycle's rear wheel, which mortally wounds him. Toe Jam dies before he can reveal the location of the Green Place, so Dementus inquires Furiosa, who refuses to answer him. Regardless, Dementus decides to be nice to the little girl and asks his men to keep her safe. Meanwhile, after analyzing the situation from a safe distance, Mary infiltrates the camp disguised as one of Dementus's men. After killing several of them, Mary reaches Furiosa's tent, where a woman is cleaning the young girl. Seeing her pleading for mercy, Mary spares her life and escapes with Furiosa. However, that woman instantly informs Dementus, and he sets out to track them down. When Mary realizes that they won't be able to escape, despite trying to lose Dementus and his men in a storm across the wasteland, Mary draws a star map leading to the Green Place on Furiosa's left arm and asks her to head home, giving Furiosa a peach pit to remember her by. Though Furiosa does not want to abandon her mother, she starts her journey, whereas Mary is captured by Dementus's forces. Unable to leave her mother, Furiosa returns and sees Mary hoisted on a crucifix-like object. Dementus tortures Mary to give up the location of Green Place, but she doesn't, so he forces Furiosa to watch as Octobos tortures Mary to her death, after which Dementus tastes Furiosa's tears. The next day, Dementus gives Furiosa a teddy bear to hold and makes her watch the execution of a man. As they are leaving, Furiosa is caged alongside the history man, who offers to teach her how to read and write to make herself valuable to Dementus. However, Furiosa stays silent and ignores him. Later, when she finds some ink, she tattoos the star map on her arm so she can always find her way back home. A few days later, the caravan notices a big red smoke signal. Upon investigating, they come across a war boy, one of the soldiers who serve Immortan Joe at the Citadel. When Dementus asks him about a place with abundance, the war boy confuses it to be Citadel and leads Dementus and his forces to it. Once there, Dementus calls to the people, asking them to help him bring down their leaders in return for their freedom. Just then, Immortan Joe shows up and asks Dementus to choose a single war boy. Once selected, the war boy prepares himself and jumps with a thunder stick, after which he explodes to his death, demonstrating that the war boys will do anything to protect Joe. As the leaders leave, the war boys attack Dementus's horde, killing many men and almost destroying Furiosa's cage. This forces Dementus to retreat. As his next move, Dementus uses a Trojan horse strategy to capture Gastown, one of the 3 fortresses of the wasteland that supplies gasoline to the Citadel. With his men, Dementus takes over one of Immortan Joe's convoys, riding it into Gastown. They pretend the convoy is under attack and convince the leaders to open the gates to let them in. While the bikers can't get in, the truck is full of Dementus's hidden men, who quickly gain control of the gates, letting Dementus and his men invade Gastown. In the next scene, Dementus rigs the town with explosives and sends the finger of Gastown's leader to Immortan Joe, demanding peace negotiations. Joe arranges for a meeting, and Dementus arrives with the captured Gastown's leader, who begs his brother Joe for his life. Dementus warns Joe about the explosives in Gastown, which he intends to detonate if Joe does not accept his conditions. Noticing Joe's interest in Furiosa, Dementus claims her as his own child, saying that she inherited her mother's looks when Joe questions the lack of their resemblance. When Joe asks Furiosa for the truth, Dementus tells her that she is mute. This is where Furiosa breaks her silence for the first time since her captivity and tells Joe that Dementus murdered her mother and is lying about being her father. Joe decides to increase the food and water supply of Gastown in exchange for Furiosa and the Horde's physician, the organic mechanic. Reluctantly, Dementus accepts and snatches the teddy bear from Furiosa as he storms away. Next, Furiosa is taken to Joe's stable of wives to raise her to become one of them. Joe's wives are kind to Furiosa, but seeing how Joe uses them against their will disgusts her. After a while, Furiosa starts getting uncomfortable in the presence of Joe's youngest son, Rictus, who keeps touching her hair. Hence, Furiosa cuts her hair in her quarters and makes a wig using net and candle wax. One night, Rictus breaks Furiosa out of Joe's vault to force himself on her, but when he grabs her hair, she slips from under her wig and runs away, hiding under a bridge. Rictus tries to look for her, but when he notices his older brother, he throws the wig away, since he does not want to be in trouble with Joe for Furiosa's disappearance. In the next scene, Furiosa pretends to be a mute boy and joins as a worker in Joe's crew. Since she is good at climbing and jumping, she becomes one of the mechanics who lifts old vehicles using chains. Over a decade, Furiosa works her way up the ranks of Joe's crew, never revealing her identity and following all the rules. In the House of Holy Motors, she helps build a war rig with a menacing drill called the Bomby Knocker. This heavily armed supply tanker is designed to withstand any raid attack in the wasteland. When Joe chooses his best driver, Praetorian Jack, to take the rig on a supply run, Furiosa plans to escape by hiding on it. On the very first drive, the rig is ambushed by Octoboss, Dementus' ex-lieutenant who went rogue and formed his own gang of moto flyers, who attack from both the sky and the land. Most of the warboys are killed by the air assault. Furiosa, who was originally riding a bike in the convoy, ends up under the rig, which protects her from a bomb. When she notices that the mechanic has died, she takes his tools and tries to repair the rig. While the moto flyers try to destroy the rig with dynamites, Jack keeps driving, crushing as many of Octoboss's men as he can. When a truck blows up and crashes into the rig, the jolt causes Furiosa's hat to fall off, revealing her true identity to Jack. However, the two have no choice but to team up to get rid of the remaining raiders. Furiosa uses a robotic weapon to subdue the assailant gliding behind them. With the enemies gone, Furiosa holds Jack at gunpoint in an attempt to carjack the rig and drive it home. However, Jack easily overpowers her, leaving her stranded in the desert. However, he returns to her moments later after a change of heart. Given how he had lost his men in convoy, he takes this as his sign to start anew and offers to train Furiosa, having seen her potential in the battle. Furiosa agrees and decides to help him rebuild his crew, while he teaches her everything she needs for survival on the roads. She becomes Jack's second in command, accompanying him on multiple runs, and they even bond romantically. On one of their runs to Gastown, they find the place up in shambles. Since Dementus is unable to lead, the supplies have dwindled, and the place is in chaos. Dementus looks at Furiosa, but he does not recognize her since she has changed a lot. After he asks Jack for another meeting with Joe, Furiosa begins to drive away, but the people around them start attacking them. Jack shoots them, while Furiosa manages to drive them to safety just in time. However, she has been injured by a stab wound in her shoulder. When they return to their home base, they inform Joe of the wretched conditions of Gastown and Dementus' request for a meeting. Joe orders them to collect weapons from the bullet farm to take on Dementus and his men. Later that night, Jack tends to Furiosa's wound, and because of his curiosity about her tattoo, she reveals her story. Touched, Jack decides to help her find her home, so she shows him the peach pit her mother entrusted her with all those years ago. The next day, they head to the bullet farm, and at Jack's behest, Furiosa drives a security truck instead of the rig. Once there, they realize that Dementus and his men are ransacking the city. After Jack and Furiosa kill the gate controllers, Jack uses the rig to drive through the gate into the bullet farm, while Furiosa tries to eliminate Dementus with a sniper shot that barely misses him. Jack smashes the rig into buildings to destroy the farm, but eventually the rig gets stuck under a tower and is caught in a hole. Just then, Furiosa manages to save Jack with a grapple hook, and they flee on Furiosa's security truck. However, Dementus and his men follow suit and attack Furiosa's truck. In the chaos that follows, Furiosa's arm is crushed between her vehicle and Dementus's monster truck. Ultimately, Dementus captures Jack and Furiosa. He hangs Furiosa by her injured arm to the truck, while his men chain up Jack to a motorbike, dragging him till he dies. Amidst the dust, Dementus suddenly realizes that Furiosa has escaped by severing her injured arm. Furiosa makes it to the Citadel, where her stump is covered with maggots to stop the flesh from being infected. She asks to meet Immortan Joe, introducing herself as Praetorian Furiosa, and informs him of Jack's death. When Joe learns of Dementus's plan to take over, he orders a trap for Dementus, luring him to the Citadel. A 40-day-long wasteland war ensues, and the war boys destroy the Horde. Having lost both her love and her map, Furiosa shaves her head and makes herself a mechanical prosthetic for her arm. As she drives into the battle on a new vehicle called the Cranky Black, the History Man calls her the fifth rider of the apocalypse. Furiosa manages to find Dementus in the desert despite various challenges and leaves him no choice but to surrender to her. In her hatred, she asks him if he remembers the suffering he has caused her. But Dementus does not remember, since all he has done his entire life is destroy others. When Furiosa takes the teddy bear, he remembers her and asks her to join him, after which Furiosa knocks him out. There are different versions amongst the people about how Furiosa settles her score with Dementus. Some think she shoots him in the head, while others think she ties him to the back of her car, dragging him across the desert and then leaving him hanging on a tree, just like he killed her mother. However, the History Man reveals the truth. Furiosa takes Dementus back to the Citadel, where she uses him as a fertilizer in the hydroponic gardens to a peach tree from her mother's pit. Eventually, the tree starts bearing fruit, and Furiosa is promoted to Imperator by Joe, in charge of a new war rig. In the end, Furiosa arranges to help Joe's wives escape by hiding them in her rig. This escape is where the movie Fury Road begins. With that, the movie ends. Thanks for watching Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. See you next time. Welcome, sci-fi fans. Futurist Flicks is thrilled to launch our exclusive membership program, designed for loyal fans like you. By joining, you'll unlock early access to recap videos, unseen recap videos, raffle prizes, free merch giveaways, exclusive content and behind-the-scenes insights, access to community events, live streams, and Q&A sessions. Join the Cosmic Crew today and get instant access to exclusive perks. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more intergalactic adventures.